So take a look at me now. There's just an empty space. There's nothing left here to remind me. Just the memory of your face. Oh, take a look at me now. There's just an empty space. And you coming back to me is against the odds, and that's what I've got to face.
Hey, good evening. Welcome, my great people, to this episode of Talk Time with Lillian. I am so sorry that I'm late again. I'm so sorry. I'm working hard to see that next time we're punctual. But unfortunately, I'm still battling with the technicalities, and today my DJ is missing. So we just have to manage ourselves.
There's nothing left here to remind me. Just a memory of your face. Now take a look at me.
And I announced a program. I announced a guest earlier on today. The man we were waiting for all along for a lot of weeks. This man is so important. This man is so important. I have waited and waited and waited, and I said, oh my God, is he ever going to make it? And he found time today, and that was why we didn't do the show yesterday, because he's free today. So welcome, Dr. To Be.
Thank you.
Dr. To Be Adedeji.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No,
Yeah.
Adekunle Adedeji.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Which one is the first name?
The first name is Adekunle.
The first name is Adekunle.
Exactly.
Okay,
and the
so
last name is Adedeji.
Adekunle Adedeji.
Adedeji.
So you have a lot of Ades.
Yeah.
And in the Yoruba culture, it signifies royalty, right?
Exactly. So you can say I'm just an embodiment of royalty.
Jesus! Can you hear that? I told you he's a very special one. Embodiment of royalty all around, father, mother side.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, that's nice. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for giving us your time. Now, we met at the Africa Day, right?
Yes.
And you did a presentation on your findings that you did, your study. How long did the study take?
It's still an ongoing study. Started 2016.
Okay.
February 2016 to be precise.
Uh-huh.
And it's still ongoing, and it has been a very, very interesting adventure since the very first day
Okay.
until now.
And I will just steal the show from you a bit. I know you will get there.
Yeah.
In your presentation, you said the quality of life, the standard of life of the African is below 50%, or what was the percentage that I've forgotten? Sorry, remind me.
For my study, I did try to investigate the quality of life of African migrants in Germany as a whole.
Okay.
And particularly the quality of life of African migrants here in Hamburg.
Okay.
It's difficult to say what exactly the quality of life, what we measure as a community, because I use diverse measure. I measure quality of life in 4 different domains.
Okay.
And that is in terms of the physical health, in terms of psychological well-being,
Okay.
in terms of social relationship, and also the environment. And I ended up with a score for each of these domains for the African migrants in Germany as a whole, and also in Hamburg. I wouldn't say we score below 50%, but I can tell you for a fact that the overall quality of life of African migrants is low. It's far beyond the acceptable limit.
Beyond or below?
Below the acceptable limit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what is the acceptable limit, if I may ask?
For different domain of quality of life,
Uh-huh.
the acceptable limit is different. For example, for the physical health,
Okay.
for you to be said to have a good quality of life, you must score at least 76 points
Okay.
And for this scale, for this domain of quality of life, my participant has an average score of 69. So, which
Okay.
is
Below.
below.
Okay.
And this cutoff is, it's just the basic. It's not talking about a very high quality of life. Rather,
Just the basics.
just that you have good enough quality of life,
Okay.
according to the standard of the WHO.
Okay, according to the standard of WHO. That is okay. So now the standard of WHO, is that the standard of Germany, or do they have? I mean, the country Germany where we are, or the European standard? What is the European standard of?
To be precise, there is no particular cutoff for
Okay.
Europe.
Okay.
There is no score that you attain that you say, okay, now you're living a good life.
Okay.
Quality of life is something very subjective, and in
Okay.
that manner, it's something that we evaluate our life based on.
Okay.
So we all imagine that we have people with a quality of life of 100 points.
Okay.
That would be a perfect world. That would
Okay.
be something that we all dream of.
Okay.
But similar studies that were conducted here in Germany, we have a score of above 80 in the physical health domain for the native population.
Okay.
So if you compare this score to what we have in the African
Then it's very
migrant,
poor.
it's even worse than comparing it to the non-population.
Normal obligation. So
Yeah.
what about the normal? Okay, let's move to the social and order aspect of the quality of life, because the Africans, there was a time, there were too many deaths, so to say, in the African community. And people were saying it's because they work too hard, rest very little. And in the end, they still live in, most of us still live in abject poverty, so to say, even though we are in the land of plenty. Why is it so?
I wish I could answer your question with just one word.
Uh-huh.
Of course, there are lots of factors that work together to create this kind of community, this kind of experience that we have in our society today.
Okay.
It is sad because when we look at other migrant group, we have other migrant group where things aren't so perfect, but they aren't also as bad as they have for the African migrant.
Okay.
Like you said, there was a time where lots of African migrants were dying from diseases that no one is supposed to die from. Come to think of it, we live in Germany where you're obliged to pay for an health insurance.
Okay.
You don't have to pay for medical treatment.
Exactly.
So why are people dying from sicknesses and things like that?
Okay.
So it's a very complicated issue.
Okay.
We have lots of problems, which is something peculiar to migrant groups, but also as African race, African migrants in Germany, our problems are a bit more than what you would expect of a normal migrant group.
So is it, where does it come from? Because we have the discriminatory factor that a lot of us complain about. Is it that bad, or do we imagine? Is it imaginary, this discrimination? Is it as bad as it seems, or is it really bad?
I will kind of try to step a bit down a bit. I wouldn't call it discrimination, not just yet. I mean, in my argument, I would like to build it from the basic.
Okay.
This problem is a problem of inequality. And when we talk about inequality, why are people not equal?
Okay.
That's because we do not have the same opportunities. We do not have the same access to resources. We do not have the same possibility to express ourselves. So then if you move a step further, if you look at the African migrant, we are very, very, how would I put it? Let me say we're very, very unlucky with the way things are going for us. We happen to be from a group of people who are very unlucky when we compare ourselves to the whole world, to the world population.
Okay.
Africa as a whole, we have the lowest index in almost everything. When you think about health, when you think about GDP, when you think about social well-being.
Okay.
So transferring this disadvantage, putting it together with the disadvantage of being a migrant, it just kind of puts the whole load of inequality on us that we find it difficult to compete in a society that has a very high class and a high standard.
Okay, but the point is that since we are in Germany, shouldn't it have been like, let's say your study is based on Germany, and I mean based on Africans in Germany in general, shouldn't it be better? We expect that the standard of living in Germany is quite high, so normally it should be it should cut across the whole communities. So why is it different for the African community?
I totally agree with you. That was what I'd expected initially, that the more we get into this German society, the better the quality of life. I'll give you an example from one of the analysis that I did. I tried to look at the quality of life of those who have stayed longer in Germany, and I kind of compare it to those who are new in Germany, and I realized the longer you stay, the worse the quality of life. That's a paradox, right?
Okay, genau.
And I was confused myself. Then I kind of look into other variables as well, and then I see that the psychological well-being gets really bad
the longer you
stay in Germany.
Okay,
and that it's because, number one, we came to this rich country with expectation. We thought once we get to Germany, things are going to work fine. We have expectations, we have dreams, we have goals, we have things that we hope to achieve. And as time goes on, we gradually get to see the reality that
things are not the way we planned.
Exactly, that things are probably not the way we planned it to be, and probably those goals that we have, those dreams, might not come true. And this kind of brings down the quality of life. It brings down the psychological well-being.
Okay. So you said, but I saw in your charts, you said sub-Saharan Africans.
Exactly.
Does it mean that it has to do with just sub-Saharan? You didn't go to the other parts or the other Africans, so to say?
Yeah, I kind of carved the area of my study due to certain reasons. I work with sub-Saharan African migrants because we have so many similarities that leave us on the disadvantaged side. For example, even if you compare the southern part of Africa to the northern part of Africa, there are lots of differences. Not just the skin color. Of course, the skin color plays a major role because that's the first thing people see when they look at you. So the skin color it's something, but also in terms of our socio-economic characteristics, we share these traits. We have common ways of doing things, so to say. So that's why I kind of cover it in order to be able to reach a reasonable conclusion for my study. Okay,
so who are the people you talk to? Adults, women, men? What age? What are the age groups?
I have some kind of inclusion criteria for people who took part in my study. I started with people who are at least adults, who are 18 years old and over. And this person must be someone who was born in Africa, one of the 49 sub-Saharan African countries.
Not the ones born here.
Of course, or born to someone who came from one of the sub-Saharan African country. So I'll get to that later, because I kind of look if there are differences as well in terms of the quality of life for those who are Africans, those who identify themselves as Africans and were born here by parents who migrated to Germany. And also I included only those who are migrants who have registered status, that is, who were registered as a refugee or registered as a temporary residence permit or permanent residence
or students
permit. Even? I mean, students have a temporary residence permit, so they are also included in the study.
So, and from the group of people, the ones who have temporary, let's say the students, you came as a student, right?
Exactly, yes.
So now, let's say, what is the difference? The student, because I know some students, I've met a lot of students in between, and they complain. But in my own opinion, I'm like, okay, you guys are having it better than the rest of us.
Well,
so
it
is that true?
depends. I mean, I wouldn't say it's true or wrong, but it depends on the individual. I mean, there are students who have difficulties in paying their rent,
Okay.
and keeping their upkeeping and things like that. That makes life a lot difficult. But generally, I would say because there is a very strong association between education and quality of life.
Okay.
Those who are students, they have an advantage because already they know that they know some important aspect of life. And for example, if you're sick, if you have some certain symptoms of illnesses, you know you have to go to the doctor. You don't need some basic primary education counseling to know that. So coming here as a student, you have an advantage in terms of quality of life, but it doesn't necessarily expand to all aspects of life.
So that means in the end, whether you go to school or not, you are still almost in the same boat.
In the same boat, yes, but on different side in that same boat.
Exactly. So you talked about solutions, possible, the way the Africans get by in Germany, and you found out that they help themselves more than they go to others.
Yeah.
Does that need to be changed? I mean, what do we do to change the situation? Because it's a very, very bad situation. And I know a lot of people, I belong to a group, and we're working hard to change this situation. What can be done?
I mean, I think before I talk about what can be done to change this, I think I first would like to talk about why do we have this problem in the first place.
Okay.
And we are people from cultures where family and interpersonal relationship is the foundation of life. I mean, in all of the 49 sub-Saharan African countries, the society is built on family value. People come together, extension family comes together to support one another. Like we have in Germany, we have a social system. We have a social welfare system whereby if someone is unemployed, you have the opportunity to go to the States and ask for money.
Exactly.
What we have in Africa is an indigenous welfare system where family comes around to support one another.
Okay.
So when people move from this kind of system, they move to a system where there is this institutionalized social welfare system. It's very, very important for them to adapt to this new system while not losing the system that they came with. So the problem is, because when we came to Germany, we have the pressure of working, we have the pressure of integrating into the society,
Exactly.
we have the pressure of learning the new language, we have the pressure of trying to impress and make a good impression because
back
we're
home.
Back home and also here in Germany because we're black. And when people see you on the street, they can easily point out that you're black. So you want to make a good impression that even though they have bad impression about Africa, I mean, not everyone, not all Germans, but definitely more than 20% have problem with Africans. I mean, that's something we see in the last election where the far right got a lot. So that's just by the way. But we have this kind of pressure to make a good impression of ourselves, to present ourselves in a good way, to integrate into the new society. So gradually we're pulled away from this
family.
Exactly, from this indigenous welfare system that is the backbone of our well-being, of our kind of society. And that's where the problem starts. So we get to live life in this individualistic approach rather than what we were used to, and combining both is kind of hard.
Would you say that because we have a lot of meetings, we have a lot of groups, African groups here, and the essence of these groups is for us to come together, talk, rub minds, exchange ideas on how to solve problems. So would you say that is a solution?
Yes, I would say that is a solution, but is it right now, is it effective? That's something different. I wouldn't say right now, we as Africans, we are on a very bad side of the scale right now in all aspects of social well-being. We have the resources in order to be to have a good life in terms of social interaction.
Okay.
We have more than 500,000 Africans registered.
In Germany.
Africans in Germany.
Okay.
So there are lots more who are not registered, probably more than doubled who are not
Okay.
registered.
Okay.
But we have lots of groups of
Okay.
Africans. If I take my country where I come from, for example, I'm from Nigeria. In Nigeria, we have more than 1,000 different ethnic groups.
Okay.
And we have more than 500 different languages.
Okay.
So when you have people from Nigeria coming to Germany and forming groups, we form groups in those mini groups. We form groups with those who share the same mini values,
with us.
who speak the same language.
Okay.
So these groups are so small that its effect is very, very weak. You know,
So you mean, in other words, we still haven't gotten it right. So what is the state like after your studies? What is there like? Is the state planning to do something about it, the situation?
I mean, I can't speak for the state because I definitely have no.
Yeah,
I have no right to do that.
You did the studies for them.
Yeah, I can only suggest to them.
Uh-huh.
I can only present to them the finding of my research, but
Uh-huh.
I can't tell them what to do in the hand. But I think it is obvious that we have a long way to go. It is obvious that there's need to have a kind of coordinated effort
Okay.
amongst those small groups in order to
Okay.
bring about
Like an umbrella group, for instance.
I wouldn't say umbrella group per se, but I would rather have some kind of system where we have the possibility to share information
Okay.
within different groups. It doesn't necessarily have to be an umbrella group,
Okay.
but we just need to create networks. Just like we network with individual, we create a network within these many different groups,
Okay.
so that members have the opportunities to get the information that they need. For,
Okay.
I mean, I can imagine that as a member of a group of academics from Nigeria and also from Africa, I have access to some information.
Yeah.
So this information from this group, we have to create channels where we can transfer this information from these groups to other smaller groups who
Okay.
have different kinds of information to share with us,
Okay.
but have no access to become the information to get the information that we have.
Okay.
So, but like that is bridging groups, building bridges.
bridges,
Exactly,
okay.
building bridges amongst this
Okay.
group rather than having an umbrella like a top organization
Okay.
that looks. You
Okay.
get what I mean.
Okay, so so like now, how do we build these bridges, if I may ask? Because that seemed to be very difficult amongst us. I'm talking about as an African, that I know that we don't like getting together to do something.
Well, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, okay.
Because as Africans, we, like I already said, our very important value is the family and the community
Okay.
coming together. Probably we've been working on that. We've been using a wrong approach.
Okay.
And I would like to just divert a bit from there to thank all those who participated in my study.
Okay.
Because getting Africans nowadays, like you said, to participate in a research
It's not
is
easy,
it's a bit hard.
Okay.
And that's because we've lost the thing behind the value of coming together. So
Okay.
that's why it's, like you said, it's hard for us to work together.
to work
But
together,
that's not the real. That's just the manifestation of the problem. It's because we don't trust each other.
Okay.
So the thing will be, how do we get to trust one another?
Okay, so do you have an idea?
Well, if I
Do you have an idea? Maybe-
idea I do have, but it's just an idea. If I do know how to make us trust, how to make people trust one another, I think
Okay.
I would rather be famous right now.
Okay.
I mean, trust is a problem that people, regardless of where they're from, have in general. But I think the level of distrust in the African community is high.
Okay.
And it's high now because we've had so many experiences with ourselves.
Okay.
We've had people we call our brothers. I mean, here in Europe, we call each other brothers and sisters.
Brothers and sisters, exactly.
And we've had brothers and sisters not treating each other well.
Okay.
So we're skeptical when I ask you from something. I think you have at the back of your mind, am I trying to get something from you?
Okay.
Do I have other intentions and
Okay.
things like that?
Okay.
So I think the first step would be to have a kind of community campaign to let people who understand
Okay.
the effect that this mistrust is having on us as a
Okay.
community, to
Okay.
to tell people to treat each other nicely.
Okay, so in other words, we should organize ourselves.
Exactly.
So if we organize ourselves, because we have problem in accessing funds, a lot of things we want to do, like, you know, for instance, that is something I would like to also ask. Do you believe that the average African is paid less than his colleagues, his counterparts? Because why I ask is that, you see, like you and I are doing the same job, okay? Maybe you have you are of different color, or you are from different background, ethnicity, or race, and you see the obvious difference. So does it have to do with the salary?
I think, I mean, in terms of salary, I think, scientifically, research have shown that there are differences in terms of what you get for the same job being someone of color.
Okay.
It's the same with being male or female.
Okay.
Recently, there has been lots of uprise regarding gender equality.
Gender equality,
The voice have been heard in some extent, but there is still quite a very big gap in terms of the gender pay doing the same job. The same thing applies to race.
Okay.
As a black person, I probably will be paid less doing
the same
job
Okay.
as someone who is white, German, doing the same job,
Okay.
even if I'm better at the job than he is.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there is this kind of
So the
bias.
probability is
The
there.
probability is there.
Okay, but does that, or is it also that we don't manage our resources very well?
We shouldn't forget that we're in a foreign country. Regardless of how well we integrate ourselves, we're still different. Not just different in terms of our skin color, we're different in terms of our background, our upbringing, the kind of education we grew up with, what is important to us.
Okay.
The kind of, I mean, I have a friend whose brother, one of the siblings, was in need of something, but he had to figure it out himself.
Okay.
But in the culture where I come from, if one of my siblings is in need of something, it's our problem.
Exactly.
Everyone is involved.
Exactly.
So all these differences kind of make it
difficult to cope.
Not just to cope, but to just say we are doing the same thing the way the Germans would do it.
Okay.
Because we have different background, we have different understanding of this same topic.
So, and yeah, you said something about losing touch with the way we are brought up. Now, but I still see that we are into our own community. Is that good or bad? I mean, should we go out and mix up more? And how do you think that can happen?
I mean, the general mood in the city is that the new immigrants should integrate into the society, the larger society, rather than integrating into the smaller groups. I mean, if I want to just mingle around with Nigerians, I will just stay in Nigeria because there I have no Nigerians to mingle with.
Okay.
So I definitely would love to mingle with people from other backgrounds as well. That's why we're in a different time right now, where we have people from all over. But the point is, we have this smaller organization, we have this smaller association, but this kind of association it's different. I mean, it's like having a fake and original.
Okay.
Exactly. It's still there, it looks like it, but it's not really it.
Okay.
We just have this organization because people are desperate to belong to something.
Exactly.
So they're members, they're not functional, they don't do anything, but they're members of this group.
And do you think the state, would it be wise to say the state should strengthen those organizations so that they can be of self-help to themselves? Or is it
I
would it be a
think-
nice recommendation? Like
Yeah,
if
I mean, it would be a nice recommendation to have the state support this organization, but still, I think it is up to this organization to look indoor, to reshuffle, to look how have we been doing things in the past,
Okay.
and what are the results we've gotten so far?
Okay.
How can we make it different? That's that's one thing that I realize is missing in many of the African communities.
Okay.
We've been doing the same thing. We've been doing it the same way
Over and over.
and over again, getting the same results. I
Uh-huh.
mean, getting no result actually,
that
and
is
we
the
still
same
keep
result.
doing it. Yeah, the no result
Okay.
is the same result, and we
Uh-huh.
still keep doing it.
Okay.
And I think we just first have to look inward. What are the things? What are the things that we can do to help our brothers and sisters?
Okay.
What are the things that we need?
So we need to organize. We're still saying we need to organize ourselves, be of help to ourselves before looking out.
Exactly. I mean,
But if we have little resources, because you know how it is, I am here, I have my family back home, you have your families here as well and back home, like most of us do. So how do you share those resources?
I mean, I will give you an example. It doesn't take much resources for you and me and people who have this opportunity to organize ourselves and go to the refugee camp and just stay there and spend time with other refugees who are from our continent,
Okay.
regardless of where they're from. Just to spend time with them, to tell them, to show them that they're loved. That doesn't. You don't need resources for that. We need to build a trust. We need to rebuild
Amongst
our
ourselves.
community,
Okay.
because right now we just.
But you know that there's still the money factor. So how do we do that? How do we close this gap? Because some people have 2-3 jobs to be able to pay their bills. That is
Yeah.
where it comes from.
I totally understand that. I mean, myself, I have 3 jobs.
You
and-
have 3 jobs. Okay.
Yeah, I
Tell me
think-
about it. What are your other jobs?
Yeah, I just leave that for another conversation. But the point is, we struggle to make a living.
Okay.
But as well as we struggle,
Uh-huh.
as much as we have so much time, then we need so much time to work.
Okay.
We still can take 30-minute out in a month to go to those people in need, to redefine the African community in Germany, to make a good impression, to make a different impression.
Okay.
I mean, we've been trying.
Okay.
I'm not saying that we've been doing bad things all along,
Okay.
but
It's not enough.
it's not enough.
So we still need to do more.
We need to do more.
I wish, if wishes, they say if wishes were horses, we
Yeah.
would fly.
Oh yeah.
So, I think we have to wrap up very soon.
Okay.
And my question is, do you think that there will, from your studies, there is going to arise a situation, a solution? Is that the aim, or what is the aim of your study, for instance?
The aim of my study was to find out what the problem is.
Okay, did you find a problem?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I found out that I'll just share some of the points with you. For example, I found out that I asked people when they need information about what's going on in the city, what's
Okay.
going on in the community, where do they get this kind of information?
Okay.
Most people get this kind of information from friends and family rather than organizations.
Okay.
And I also asked them, if you happen to need some money, enough for you to buy food for the next day, to take care of yourself for just one day, what is the likelihood of you getting someone outside of your immediate family
Okay.
to give you this money? More than 50%, 58% to be precise, think it's very unlikely.
It's very unlikely.
I mean, I think it's unlikely and very unlikely. That's very sad.
It is sad.
So we see that we are more or less individuals having the same problem.
Okay.
Although we have societies, we have communities, we have organizations, but these organizations are not really felt. So one primary thing that we need to do is we have to redefine all these organizations. We have to make them know that they are not being effective. We have to say it out loud.
So how do we make them know?
Yeah, this is one of the ways to make them know. Now
Okay.
they're listening. I hope some of them are listening. They should know that they are not doing enough.
Okay.
Maybe they're doing a lot. but-
Maybe you can come up with something and we will join you.
Yeah,
What
of
about
course,
that?
Of course, I'm currently working on a project with some.
So when are we going to see your project?
Definitely soon, because we won't present it until when it's
Okay.
well done.
Okay.
And it's in the cooking right now. I'm working together with other
So
professionals.
do you need volunteers? What do you need to actualize this project you're talking about?
The projects I'm talking about, we hope to like I mentioned earlier, that we need to bridge the gaps between this organization in terms of information sharing. So that's one of our goals. We hope to create channels whereby information can flow freely
Okay.
within organization
And
and
help as well?
individual, and help as well. We also plan to go more into health, into healthcare, and in terms of primary health care, and letting people know how important it is, and
Okay.
also carrying out some basic medical counseling, and also focusing more on our psychological well-being, because that is something of taboo in the African community.
Exactly.
When you mention that you're depressed to an African friend, they look at you like,
Okay,
oh,
genau.
God.
Because my time is almost up, but I would talk about this taboo of not this culture of not talking about illnesses. So who do they turn to if they don't want to talk to their friends? Who do you think they can turn to? Because for the average African, if you say you are depressed, they say, oh, God forbid.
That's the thing.
I rebuke it. But rebuking it is not enough.
It won't take it away. I mean, we have an African community that has a very strong spirituality. Lots of Africans go to churches or mosques, and our plan is to make this channel where they already go to kind of make it into also an avenue for counseling.
Okay, so that means getting involved with the churches and the mosques?
Exactly, getting involved with the churches and the mosques, and also making the people aware that you don't keep it inside, because it's like planting a seed. The longer it stays, the worse it gets. So if you're depressed, we have to understand, we have to sensitize people about this topic. We have to make them understand that it is bad, it is there.
Okay, you keep saying depression. Is that the worst thing that is plaguing us in our community right now?
It's not the worst thing. There is anxiety, gloom, just chronic mental illnesses and everything.
Oh, but in the African community?
Yeah, I mean, we are people. People have things they're going through.
Okay.
And that's the problem. We need to feel like, we need to feel free.
And talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. To share these things, to help one another. We have medical doctors in our community. We have psychologists in our community. We have people who understand our needs. We just have to open up. We have to help people to open up in order to get the help that they need.
Wow, unfortunately I didn't start on time due to some, as usual, technicalities I'm trying to master. Otherwise I would have sat down here and talked to you the whole evening.
I mean, there is so much to talk about.
I think so. So is it that because last time I wanted, there was also another pastor that I told you about that was supposed to be on the program, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. So I'm going to invite him next, and it would have been nice to continue this discussion, because it's like we couldn't even get to the matter, the heart of the matter. So what is your advice for the people that are listening to you?
I mean, if there is anyone who needs some kind of help, some kind of direction, or just some kind of information about how we're doing, they can always contact me. My name is Adekunle Adedeji. On Facebook, I'm Ade Adedeji. You can find me on Facebook, or you can also contact my host, Lillian Kanu. She will direct you to
not Kanu.
Oh, sorry.
Don't make that mistake. Everybody calls me Kanu.
Yeah, because you know the famous Kanu ranker.
Exactly. So everybody calls me. You know the time of this Kanu, this Biafran man. People were writing.
That's true.
Is he your brother? I said no. They said, but you look like him. I said, Anyway,
sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I'm proud to have popular people bearing my name, almost like my name.
Like
so I am happy. Well, thank you for coming. I hope you will be able to come again, so we will talk deeper. And if your project comes up, and if you also like to share with us on the program.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you again. And
so when will
also,
you be done with your doctorate?
I'm rounding up now.
So when will we have the opportunity to call you doctor? Because my mouth is
to call you soon. You have to hold that lips just for a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. And there will be jollof rice as well.
Una here? This man is inviting us already. You are inviting us on the radio. So please, if he finishes his doctorate, we are going to do a party, and he's already inviting us, jollof rice. So be prepared. If I announce, the moment I announce he has his doctorate, hold him responsible.
There will be jollof rice.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And next time, my people back home, thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a wonderful time. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time. And my time is up. The next program will come up on at 7. So I have to take my leave because today actually wasn't my day. But this man is so special. I wanted to get him here. So I said, okay, let's take the day he is free. So that's why we are here today. So tune in next week on the program, and I will be having some fantastic women, some African women of substance. When I say women, women of color, you know, and you will be glad you tuned in. So thank you very much for tuning in, and I am your host, Lillian Kunu, and that has been my guest, Adekunle Adedeji. He's my brother, eh? Anyway, thank you very much. Okay, bye. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
For you.